that's the limited belief that we have. It's just like you only get money for the time that you work. Where it's just like, no, there's a lot of people making money while they are on vacation, out traveling, spending time with their loved ones. We don't realize the life skills that, or the privileges that others were given that you weren't. Like one of the biggest life skills that I had to learn, like, I'm in my late 20s, like early 30s where I'm now.
Welcome to the Adriana and Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with Sehar. We actually met, I'd say, quite a few months ago now at a networking event, a business networking event in Toronto. And we came across each other, we said hi, we connected, and I felt some alignment and synergy right away with you and some connection. So I'm looking forward to having you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. So just a little bit about me. My name is Sehar Aqeel. I have an Instagram, Life of Sehar, where I talk about lifestyle, a lot of business advice, and just humanitarian work. In my professional life, I've been in sales and marketing for over 17 years, primarily in working with Fortune 500 companies and specifically with the consumer products good industry. Currently, I am managing different beauty brands in Canada. That's a little bit outline of what I'm doing right now.
That's amazing. Let's move into a little bit of your story and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So a little bit about me, I came up from a very humble beginning. I came up a single mom with 3 kids, so very low income. Like we didn't have money for a lot. I put myself through university, which was really hard on me, just because I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was the first one in my family to go to university in Canada, so there was a lot of things that I had to figure out on my own. Like coming into the workforce, I didn't have some of the advantages that I saw that my peers had coming from either influential families or just having, parents that could support them. So I found it really hard graduating university and trying to find a full-time employment. I ended up working like 3 jobs at a time just to, pay my rent and pay my bills, to now where I'm only working 1 job along with, everything that I do on the side. But it has come a long way from where I started to now. Currently, I am in mid-level senior leadership. So that's something that I'm very proud of. And I do work with a lot of people and mentoring them into senior leadership, specifically like women of color, and people of diverse backgrounds that might not have the knowledge to get into these bigger corporations, or then if they are in there, they don't know how to elevate themselves into senior level positions.
I love that story. Thanks for sharing. I can relate well, not from being a single mom, but from being a child of a single mother. My mom immigrated to Canada with my sister and I as a single mom. It was tough, man. It was really tough. I was
Yeah.
13 when I arrived here. I did not speak the language. We didn't have a lot of means. I had to start working very early on and literally
Hmm.
pay my way through life. I was out of the house by 18.
Same,
And
actually.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
see, that's what I'm saying. I saw your story. I'm like, I can relate. I really
Yeah.
had to make my way.
That I love that you mentioned that you started working from a young age. I think a lot of people don't realize like how many children slash teenagers actually start working to either support themselves or support their families. Like I also started working at an early age. I started working at 14. We don't realize the life skills that, or the privileges that others were given that you weren't. Like one of the biggest life skills that I had to learn, like, I'm in my late 20s, like early 30s where I'm now, is like managing money, which is something that I never really learned from my parents because they were just like, you either have it or you don't. Like there wasn't any like middle ground or how to save or how to better yourself or like any sort of goals. So even though I started working at an early age, like I never saved anything. Like I spent every little dollar that I had, like was already in my mind. Like before I got my paycheck, I knew what I was spending it on.
That is so funny because I'm the same. Like everything went because I'm like, I'm gonna buy new shoes and new clothes. I'm gonna go to the movies. I'm gonna go hang out with my friends. Like it had its purpose, the money that I was making, and for the same exact reason. And interesting enough, my mom is a saver. there was not a lot of financial conversation at our house. There's just not a
Mhm.
lot, other than there wasn't some limiting beliefs on her end that like money was really hard to make and it was really hard to come about and you had to like work really hard. So that message was really put forth in my family, but there wasn't a lot of conversation. We did not come from a family of investors. This is what I do now. You know, I'm a real estate investor myself.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't come from a family of investors or had any financial literacy really, and had to learn and figure out on our own. And I feel happy that now I can circle back and teach her and help
Mhm.
her invest and help her make her money work for her. And it feels like a full circle. But it
Mhm.
was really figuring it out, you know.
So how did you change your mindset into like, hey, I just want to be a saver to versus I want to be an investor and build something for the future?
You know, I find that people, when they make a big change in their lives, they usually comes from a strong. It has to be something that just is like clicks within you. And you're like, I want this so badly that I'm gonna have to figure something out here. You know, my husband and I, when we got married really young, at 22, we were living paycheck to paycheck and paying off debts, like schooling debts that we both had. 7 years to really like get out of the debt we were in and save enough money for like getting into our first, you know, house. And when we're living there, we're still working and living pretty much paycheck to paycheck. My mom went through a health issue at the time and moved in with us. I had two babies, like really young babies at the time. And I felt the weight, this weight on my shoulders of like, not only do I have to support my, you know, family, my kids, I feel responsible to support my mom because, you know, she
Mhm.
needs us right now. And I thought, how do I create wealth that goes beyond myself and my immediate family? It's going to pour into those around me. And
Mhm.
that was the question that I had in my mind. And I figured out there's got to be something else. It's not like working 9 to 5 and gaining like a 3%, you know, salary increase a year. Just there's nothing moving. It doesn't move fast enough. There must be a different way of gaining wealth that is not this. And I just
Mhm.
started like searching and came across real estate and it just clicked. And I thought, I can do real estate. I can do this. And it was like,
Mhm.
it's been life changing.
That's great. For me, I'm still, I believe, changing the way that I'm like thinking about money and what I want to do for my future. Like I have a very good plan. Like I know I don't want to trade my time for income anymore. So I'm in the process of where I'm like setting up like my side hustles, so I don't have to trade time for income because I think that's the limited belief that we have. It's just like you only get money for the time that you work. Where it's just like, no, there's a lot of people making money while they are on vacation, out traveling, spending time with their loved ones, being a mother, being at home, and they still have income coming in. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And with that, like such like limited belief, especially when you don't come from a lot, that it's just really hard in overcoming. But I think it takes time, like you said, like it took you 7 years to get into your first property. Like that's still a significant amount of time, and people are just like, oh, but I want it tomorrow. And be like, no, but you have to work hard at it. You have to go through it. And everyone does it. There's no shame in that. And I think that's one of the things why I share so much of my stories and from my upbringing because a lot of people don't realize like outside I am successful and I have luxury things and I go on vacations that are beautiful and I go to restaurants all the time, but they don't realize like how hard I had to work to have this lifestyle now. Like people don't get that.
It's a lot of work and primarily a lot of work in yourself. You
Yeah.
know, that was a shift that I had to make. The first thing that I did once I realized that something had to change was I invested in myself. I went
Mhm.
out and I started investing in my own education. I started investing in, I hired a coach. I started to just get out of my comfort zone and be like, there's got to be something that I don't know, and I'm not going to know unless if I stay within the same circle. I need to go out there and find out what else is out there and what else is going on that I can get into. My coach confronted me and was like, we talked a lot about money. He said, we're going to write down what are your beliefs around money? When you think of money, what are the kind of feelings that come up for you? How do you view money? What are your main beliefs? And it was a process of like, okay, writing it down and confronting it. And he said people that have a lot of money and have a lot of wealth have different beliefs about money.
Yeah.
And had to be like, okay, these beliefs don't serve me anymore. I need to start adopting new ones. It's not easy. It's a lot of
It's
hard
not
work.
easy. For sure. You definitely have to build new pathways in your brain, right? So where people are like, oh, affirmations don't work or like they're stupid. No, like they do work because what they're doing is like building pathways in your brain for you to have that new belief and not just to think it, but also to feel it and make it your reality.
A funny story. During this time when I was meeting with this coach, I
Hmm.
started reading a book by Jen Sincero. I don't know if you've had a chance.
Oh yeah, was it? Which one was it? Because she has two different ones.
You're a badass at making
Yes,
money.
yes.
And she had these affirmations in the book. And I remember at the time I used to go on walks like around my neighborhood. And she's like, you just gotta say it out loud. Like, I love money. And I'm like, I love money. And just like yelling it out,
Yeah.
like allowing it in and feeling the
Hmm.
feeling of abundance and just literally changing. And when I think about money, what does it trigger in me? Does it trigger fear, security, hustle, hardship? Like, what is the feeling that you get when you think of money? And like literally changing, how I view it to like,
Yeah.
I love money. It's abundance, it's solutions, it's give back, it's all these components that I really never experienced growing up. It's money's not scarce. Money's all around me. Money is so abundant.
Yeah. It's funny because I also read her "You Are a Badass" book, and one of the things, yes, that was one of the reasons. Like I thought she talks about her belief around money and the lack of, but also like the abundance of, and that was one of the things that really stuck with me. And that is just like your limiting beliefs and coming over that because it's just so hard when you've been like told all your life that like you can only do certain things, and you're like, but is that really true? Because I've been able to do all these fantastic things in my life. So why can I not, continue to grow on that? And people are just like, no, like, you are where you are and you stay in your lane. But you're like, no, I don't want to. And you have different opportunities when you think that way, I believe.
And tell me a little bit about what you do in the marketing world and what has gotten you there.
So currently I manage different beauty brands in Canada. I've been in marketing since I think I was in university. Like when I was in university, I actually wanted to go into HR. Marketing was not my thing, neither was sales. And I think I accidentally fell into it. I started doing sales when I was like 14. That was my first job. I started working at Bentley Leather. They were actually not allowed to hire me. They only hire people over 18, but my manager made an exception. She's like, you know what, you can work here, just don't manage the till. So what ended up happening is because I worked there for so long, I started training people on cash, but like not having to touch the cash. But it was a great learning experience. Like in my first year, I was actually like the top three performers in sales in Canada, and that was like at the age of 14. So from that, I just sales came to me naturally, and I think it was until not until university where I got my first foot into anything marketing. And I went to McMaster University, and they have their internal like ticketing agency that sells like transit tickets and event tickets. That's called Compass Information Center. And I started working there as just a cashier, and then like I applied for the manager's role, like the marketing manager, just because I thought I was so fun and like it looked cool. Like I got to do all these like arts and crafts projects. I thought, you know what I mean, in my mind. But it ended up being so much more. It ended up being so much more strategic on like what I wanted to not only do in the current year, but like planning for that's something that I really enjoyed. Like while I was there, I was able to take them from a non-for-profit because they are like McMaster student-owned organization to actually a for-profit organization where they can now use money that they make and put them towards like other facilities and programs. So one of the things I did that was like introducing different ticketing avenues and just not only thinking about the short term but also like the long term growth plan. And I think I really enjoyed that. And like even in my current role, that's what I would say I enjoy the most is the strategic thinking part of it and really like making those, retailers and your marketing plans for your next year, and then seeing them and then bring them to fruition.
That sounds fun. The thing that came to my mind as you're sharing your story is how important it is to get out there and have different experiences. You know, you started a job and it develops into something else, and you learn something about yourself over
Mhm.
time. Like, hey, I'm really good at this, or I can actually do that. And that experience, no like university degree can give you. It's
For
really
sure.
like just doing it and being out there and working and growing and meeting people. So I love that. Congratulations on all that success.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for sure, like I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger. Even graduating university, I was just honestly like, because again, limiting beliefs about money, be like, you know what, like I should just be grateful for any job that I get. So I always just took the first one came my way. Whereas now, oh my God, I'm so picky. I'm like, are they even worth my time? Like I literally think about, okay, am I like in transit? Like how much time am I spending? And I put a value to that because I'm like, that's not just time spent in traffic, that's money wasted, right? So I put a value to my money because I don't want to waste it anymore.
I love that. I think that comes with your sense of worth,
Yeah.
self worth, and growing in that and realizing, hey, I bring a lot of value here. And definitely saying yes to everything doesn't accomplish that. You have to be able to be selective where you're spending your energy, your time, your efforts. I love that. You mentioned that you work with like women in business. Tell me a little bit about that side of things.
Yes. So, well, uh, as I'm going through, like working in different Fortune 500 companies, working in like the consulting perspective, I just found that there was just not a lot of knowledge that, yes, I'm working in this one position, but I don't know how to elevate myself to get to like where I need to be. And when an employer, from my experience, what I found was when an employer hires you, they have a very narrow perspective on what you can do, so they're not going to give you the opportunities that might help you grow unless they see that in you. So I think like you really have to be like, hey, you know what, like I'm interested in or I can do it. A lot of times we have like, no, I can't do that because I've never done it before. So I think it's just like creating that internal excitement, being like, hey, this is something new. It's going to be really hard. I'm going to suck at it, but this is the worst I'm ever going to be at it. Only get better from here. So anytime I'm trying anything new in my life, like that's my mindset going in. It's just like I am going to be terrible. Like I say terrible and I laugh at it because like literally I know that I'm going to be terrible, but I have fun with it, and I'm just like, how much can I grow myself within that? And I think when I started having that perspective on things, I started becoming like less afraid to try and advocate for myself and push for myself. And I found the employers that didn't see my value, like they didn't deserve me. I moved on and I made so much more money for like another company that are their competitors. I'm like, you could have had me, but look at the company I'm working for now and making, really good money for them. So that's your loss.
Wow. I think there's such a special skill set there that I again implement the same in my life of the ability to be okay with sucking at something.
Be okay
That's
with failure. Be
yeah.
like mediocrity. It's okay that you're not the best at everything, right? Like that doesn't like should deteriorate from you trying something new or something different.
100%. When I did my first real estate deal, I went into it thinking, you know, I don't know much because it was my first one. I'm like, I don't really know
Yeah.
much about what I'm doing here. I had bits and pieces of information and knowledge and experience, but I've never done a full cycle deal. So I felt like, okay, worst case scenario, I fail and crash and burn here, but I'm gonna get myself up. I'm gonna have learned from the experience. I'm gonna go do it again. That is the
Yeah.
worst case scenario. And I went with it kind of fearless because I'm like, it was stressful, don't get me wrong, but I went into it fearless. I'm like, I'm not scared of failure because most likely I am gonna fail many, many,
Yeah.
many times before I succeed at anything.
For sure. I think whenever I see the journey of someone that's like really made it in their life or been really successful and has a lot of companies, like a lot of times whenever they talk about their journey, a lot of it starts from failure. so much of it starts from failure. It's just like this happened to me and I sucked at it, or like like I lost my car, I lost my job, like I lost my house, like so like judgmental. It's just like how is this person living? But like growth comes from failure, and I think a lot of people don't like realize, or they're too scared or too, I want to say, like not further in their journey, because like everyone's different, has a different journey in their different paths. So just being okay with like realizing within yourself that like failing is okay, and then moving on from that is really important.
I'm curious on how to encourage people. My sister works for a big company that has, she works as a director on
Mm-hmm.
HR and compensation and payroll. She had like a position that had opened up that was, a step up from what her team was at. So she had 4 people on her team, and there was a position for like management, and she put the position out there internally first and then externally to others. And she told me, she's like, nobody from my team applied. And I was so shocked. I'm like, there's 4 people here qualified because they're already doing the job. And none of them applied. And I'm like, oh, how come? She's like, honestly, different reasons. Some people are just good at where they are. They're not trying to grow. They're like, I do this. I'm going to continue to do this. I go home. And other people just didn't believe enough in themselves. They thought I can't do this. So they didn't even try.
Yeah,
What would you say to somebody who's feeling a little stuck to encourage them to, take those next steps?
for sure. I think coming from like an HR perspective, you know that whoever you're interviewing is not going to be like 100% perfect for this role. Because if they were, they would have moved on already. Like nobody wants to move parallel in their life, right? So you're seeing who can meet like 60 to 70% of that prerequisite requirement, and then who has the attitude to grow into that role, who has the attitude to learn. And I think a lot of the times people go into being into a new role being like, I need to know everything. No, you don't. It's a new role. It takes like literally 3 to 6 months for you to get comfortable in a new role, before you can actually contribute the way that you should be contributing to a company or to an organization. And that's something that I had to learn like later on in my life, because like early on in my career, like I was given really great opportunities to work for like different Fortune 500 companies, but I just didn't have the belief in myself. Like I'm like, oh my god, I don't feel worthy. Like why did they hire me? I suck. Like I'm at the bottom of the chain. Like I felt such anxiety every single day coming to work, because like I just had the imposter syndrome. I'm like, I'm not meant to be here. There's no one else that looks like me while I'm here. I don't belong. But I had to get to myself, really talk to myself, be like, no, like nobody knows what they're doing when they first start their role. Like everyone's dumb, Not to say that everyone's dumb, but like they come in here not knowing, they learn, and that's the whole point. Like it took me a long time in my career to realize that I don't need to know everything coming into a new role. Like for sure, if I am applying for a new role now, I look at the review. I mean, I look at what it is, and I'm like, it's not how I feel. It's like, can I do the work? Right? If I'm able to do the work without having the prerequisite requirement, like I'm going to apply, because I know I could work that hard. Like that's one thing in me. It's just I know that no one else can work harder than I can. Like if it's just solely about hard work, like I know I'm there, like competing with everyone else, and everyone's working hard. Like it's all about putting in that effort together and learning together. So it's sad, but it's true. Like people have to like really overcome that belief, and it's just like where are they in their journey? Like do they believe in themselves self enough to be like, hey, even though I might not have like all the requirements for it, can I still do the job? Like you said, it's just like you were in real estate in your first deal. It's just like, hey, I don't have like all the requirements, but can I still do the job? Can I get it done? Yes, you can. It's not going to be 100% or perfect, but you did it. It's done. Now you can move on to something else.
Yeah, I love that. Do you find that there's anything particular about women in business that, needs to be like addressed or mentioned?
For sure, I still feel that they're, working in corporate organizations, there's still a disparity with women leadership versus men in leadership positions. And I think I was just reading a story online where a woman, I forgot her name, but she just won a Nobel Prize studying the disparity like the equality disparity in the income between men and women. And what comes down to is when a woman has their first child, that's when the ability to earn additional income decreases. And I think like that's so interesting because us as a society, we need to like think about why that is, right? Because it's not like we're less capable. Actually, like women are graduating universities at a higher percentage than men are. So it's not that we're not capable, we're not educated, we don't have the drive. It's just why are we being held back when men also have kids? Their child as much as it is yours. So why is that weight of childbearing and childbirth and just surrounding everything comes on to the woman so she can't have that additional earning potential? And it's honestly like as a single woman right now, like I do see that. Like I see that I do have, you know, higher opportunities versus somebody that has kids, and that's unfortunate, but like it's the reality. And I think like instead of, you know, tiptoeing around problem, we need to like talk about it openly so we can address it and like come up with the why, and then solve it. Be like think about why that is. And I think even the younger generation now, like I'm so proud of them because they're, you know, standing up for what's right, what's true, helping their partners, even if they didn't see their parents in the same role, right? Because they recognize like it's a joint effort, and income doesn't come from one person. Like I'm sure, like you have two kids, but like you're also providing, like, you know, providing an income for the family. Like you guys are a joint couple, a partnership, and you're helping your entire family grow. So I think like it's hard for women. I think in their mind it's still very much, hey, I have kids, I need to stop working, or hey, I have kids, I need to prioritize everything I have into them versus work. Whereas no, like you can actually, you know, work but have a supportive partner that helps you through this journey. Because I think like until now, it's just us being the supportive role, you know, us being the supportive actress in whatever the prime men drama is. And I think like more and more, it's not going to come right away. I don't see it like even in the next 10 years. Like, but change is coming, and I do see it, especially in the corporate world. It's funny when you talk like that. When I'm doing like marketing campaigns, I have to think about two different things. I have to think about the consumer because obviously anything you do, you put the consumer first. Then I also have to think about like who I'm pitching to, because a lot of the time, like people in the executive decision making rooms, they're male, and a lot of times, like we live in Canada, they're white. Like, you know, call a spade a spade. So I have to think about, yes, this is a very consumer centric product, and you know it needs like diversity, inclusion, and stuff like that. But I also have to kind of frame it in a way that they're going to understand and buy into this idea, right? And if I wasn't in my position to recognize that, like other people don't think about these things, right? Because they don't have the life experience of the journey. People are just going to say, okay, well, I'm going to, you know, present this idea, and like, it's just to the shareholders, and it's either where they agree or not. But it's like, isn't that kind of just really one-sided or empty? Because that's not what your consumers are actually wanting. So I think it's just like finding that fine balance about like making obviously something that's for the consumer that they're going to benefit from, but also being mindful of like who's going to sign off on it, who's paying for these things, like what are their beliefs, what are their ideas on what this should look like, and coming to, you know, it's a balancing act between the two.
That's such a good point. So, like, you're really having to translate one audience to the other audience
Yeah.
and like transmit the message in a way that each audience understands in their own way. That is
Mhm.
a special skill to have for sure. I liked your point about how things are changing. I see it too. A couple of things came to my mind as you were saying that. I was just speaking at a real estate conference this past weekend.
Oh, I saw the pictures from it.
Yeah, it
Congratulations.
was so much fun. And honestly, I feel like there was a really good, I'm gonna say about 50-50 were women on stage, just as much as men. And specifically this organization, the founder has two girls, and he's like extremely and a beautiful wife, and they're all very talented, and he's extremely encouraging of them. He wants to
Mhm.
see powerful women on stage, he puts them on stage. He wants to highlight, and so that they know they can do just as much and everything they possibly want. And I
Mhm.
love that. I was looking through the pictures of all the speakers. I'm like, actually, we're really 50-50 here. And I still appreciate that he's given that, mindful concept.
Mhm.
But also, the other thing that came to my mind is I own a virtual agency. That's one of the businesses that I co-own. And so we hire, North American, team members that work with us virtually for different businesses, specialize in the real estate industry. And most of them are moms that they need to be home because they're managing like kids and family life. They're capable, skilled,
Yeah.
talented, like human beings that want to contribute and make a massive impact in not only our business but other businesses. They also get a chance to like, run in between things and be there for their child. I'm the same way. I work from home. I do it intentionally because I pick up my kids at school at 3:30 because then I'm home, like they're doing their thing. I'm here in my office working. When I'm home, I'm around them, I'm available. And that's kind of the lifestyle that I wanted to build because I want to be able to do both.
Yeah, of course. That's what I mean. Like, I think a lot of people, even in HR, to be honest, like they think that women aren't able to do both, or they're going to prioritize one over the other. So you're just looking over that person's capabilities, and what that person can grow into, and like grow, right? Like, it's not like they're going to be it's not puppy that is going to be, that one size for the rest of their life. Like, they're adults and they grow, and like they're seeing their parents work hard, right, for them. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to see and to like be around because you want to see, both your parents contributing to your life.
Yeah, honestly, I grew my real estate business being alone. My kids were really tiny. I just mentioned my son was a year and a half when I started, focusing on the real estate. My daughter was 3, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been growing the business and scaling like crazy as we're having kids, as we're growing. My husband works, we work, we support each other and play off of each other in tag team. My mom has been a massive help in all of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not or we want to be able to grow our businesses and be here for our kids, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important too. No, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, so I see, a lot of different family dynamics between all the different couples and the different families. And I think the one thing that I get out of it is just the importance of spending time with your kids and like to and the importance of doing things with them and like the way that brings confidence in them and the ability for them to like then rely on you further in their journey further in their life. Like I think that's very strong and beautiful, and that's why we should have children. It's because we want to be able to like support them and teach them and like guide them in their in the right decisions. So I feel like a lot of times like people have kids to have kids, not knowing like how they should be treated or how they should be brought up or cared for. So I love that about you.
The biggest lesson I've had in parenthood, my kids are now 10 and 8, so they are getting older and easier for them
Yeah, thank you, do girl.
to grow. Is living as an example. So
Yeah.
every time I'm noticing something with my kids that I'm like, oh, I just want better for you or best for you. I'm like, what am I modeling here? Because really they're watching us. They're watching us exist, communicate, relate, work, all of it. My daughter spoke at an event recently the last few months. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's amazing. She went and saw me speaking, and then she said, I want to speak too. I'm like, okay, let's do this.
see, like, yeah, it's such influence that from such a young age to realize that.
100%. I love that. And I realize that, again, going back to working on myself, that's always where it starts. Like, if I want to level up my life or be a better mom or a better wife, I look within. I'm like, where can I, improve in here? The better version of myself I can be, the better mom I'll be, the better professional I'll be, the better leader, the better wife, the better friend. So hard. It's been so much fun talking to you. Where can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Sehar Aqeel, or they can find me on Instagram at Life of Sehar.
Perfect. Make sure to check out this beautiful lady and keep up with what she's up to. I'd love to catch up again, and I feel like we still should grab that coffee. Uh,
Yes.
that would be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.